Cliff Beach, the musician, author, entrepreneur, speaker. But who was Cliff before any of this existed? Like, what was young Cliff like?
It's so funny. You know, my first full-length record that I did myself under my name is called Who the Funk is Cliff Beach? And that is the question I'm always trying to answer. You know, I have a plaque behind me that says God made me funky. So I feel, yeah, you know, I've always been a quirky, creative, kind of oddball, weirdo kid that grew up to be weirdo, quirky, oddball adults. Man.
Welcome to the Crossing the Pond podcast, hosted by me, Gary Adair, where we talk to people from all walks of life, artists, educators, entrepreneurs and adventurers, to explore the stories and lessons that can help you understand yourself, others, and create meaningful change in your own life. This week we've got a guest whose pond took him from a small town on the east coast of the US all the way to the bright lights of LA. Cliff Beach stepped out of his comfort zone before he even knew what a comfort zone was, trading everything familiar for a shot at something bigger, leading to a career in music, public speaking, and authoring his 3-book series, Hustle and Flow. Cliff speaks about the speed bumps in his journey and the version of himself he had to leave behind to become who he is today. We talk about the people who pulled him through it, why the company you keep can make or break your comeback, and why taking that leap, even the scary one, is sometimes the only way to grow.
I was very bookish as a kid. I loved to read. I was very curious about the world. I was very questioning of the world. Like, I always asked really deep questions. I was also a kid who grew up, so I guess to predate everything, I grew up in the 80s, and so I saw the trajectory of technology. So I'm in that boomerang of the sweet spot of like analog to digital, and I've lived the whole gambit in between. And so I remember having my first Apple IIc and Oregon Trail and Nintendo Entertainment System. So I thought that was like, wow, technology, like Mario and 8-bit. And now, like, you know, everything looks so real. I was watching Terminator 2, and when the liquid guy comes through the thing, like, that was like epic. That was like, oh my God,
when
that's
he
like
comes
the
out
best
the
technology.
floor. When he comes out the floor, yeah.
When he's trying to get through the bars, and then the gun
Gets
catches
stuck.
him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and you're like, he's stuck. Ugh, crazy movie. But anyway, so yeah, I was like really into, like, I see the Michael movie now, so I was huge into Michael Jackson. He had this movie, Moonwalker, which I used to study all the time. That's where Smooth Criminal came out. I had no idea at the time that Annie, Are You Okay? Is talking about CPR on a dummy. But that was like the coding of what people used to say. Like, that's when you go up to a person who's passed out. You're like, Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Can I check you for this? So it's like, I really just enjoyed figuring out the breadcrumbs. So I loved music. I wanted to study music. I took piano lessons. I sang in choirs. I grew up in church, so a lot of music and church. And I just was a sponge. I just absorbed anyone who could mentor me, anyone that was further up the road. I'd be like, show me something on piano, show me something singing. I wanted to learn from everybody before I even knew what mentorship was. But yeah, I've always been that way. And so I'm kind of this person that has kind of an ADHD. So I'm very like fast, very hyperactive. I say I'm like a hummingbird when it comes to like information and going from thing to thing to thing. So I'll tell people all the time, like, you have to be really careful, because if you jiggle your keys or shine a light, like, I'll just move that direction. Like, that's just the way I am. So as a kid, I started school early at 4, and in kindergarten, I was labeled bad. I guess the education system tries to control you, and I was like uncontrollable. And I was really smart. So my grandma taught English, and I remember I was probably like 4.5 at this point. And my teacher said something I didn't like. And I told my teacher, her name was Miss Carter Russell, I told her, "You're being belligerent." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're being belligerent." And not only did I know the word, but I could define the word, and I had used it correctly. And she was pissed. And so I was like, "Yeah, I'm not the average child that's learning ABCs. Like, I'm past that, and I need other things to do and to be stimulated." And so it was cool. I learned how to create, even at a young age, like, curate my life, make the life that I wanted. And I was very strong-willed and defiant when it came to adults. Like, there was no, if someone was like, "Well, because I said so," that answer was not going to fly with me. I was like, I need a reason. I need science. I need something to back this up. And you could be wrong. And so it was fun. It was fun because music really was like this white space where I could just like create and think and bring great ideas. And I wasn't great to begin with, but I had to start and then eventually become great. But it's fascinating to me because I just read something Quincy Jones has studied with Natalie Boulanger or something like that in France years ago, who taught like all these famous people how to conduct and film score and write. And she said, no matter if you're Bach or Beethoven or Count Basie, you all have 12 notes. So like music is very humbling in that way that like for centuries we've been using the same 12 notes and the same chords in different ways. But it's like fascinating because it's a lifelong learning. I still am in my 40s, not done with learning. Every record and album and stuff that I do is teaching me something. But yeah, I don't know if I had like a linear path to say I started A and then I ended up at B. It was very like all over the place at Hawk. And I can go deep dive into any section you want.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm just like straight away, I'm like, right, energy, energy. It's everywhere. So music's been such a big part of your life and this creative sort of seed that you've got inside you. Was there ever a point where you thought about a more conventional path, or was there anything in the middle where music was the side and you had to do something to, I don't know, pay the bills or make things work? Was there ever a little bit of a conventional path alongside the music, or has it always just been throw yourself into it?
It's actually both. So I finished school early at 16, emancipated, went to college. Now I was going to do pre-med and become a doctor, but I realized that was not my dream. That was my aunt's dream, who eventually became a chemist and a doctor of chemistry. But I went through a rotation around 15, just to kind of see like what I like being a doctor. And I learned pretty quickly I'm pretty squeamish. I don't like blood. I don't like nasty stuff coming out of people.
Yeah,
I'll
that's kind of a prerequisite, mate.
Yeah, or like they would show us videos of like, go look at a breech birth. And I'm like, I know that people say that's a miracle, but it's gross. All I saw in there was like, I want none of it. So I was like, okay, this is not gonna be the path for me. And luckily I had a friend who was working on music and was like, I want to go to Berklee College of Music. It's a great school. And I had never heard of it. And I was like, I'm just going to follow you. And so I followed his coattails and followed this high school friend to college. And we roomed together. And I went to Berkeley in Boston. And I started from the bottom, like Drake. I mean, I knew nothing about music to the level of what these people had done. Like I was with kids who were like prodigies and had won jazz competitions all over the world, and I had done nothing. But I was like, I want to be there. And I remember it's so funny. My parents drove me the 10 hours from Maryland, D.C. to Boston, sight unseen. So I moved to Boston. I had never been there because I know like how fear sets in for me. If I overthink it, like I'll find a million ways not to do anything. So I just thrust myself immediately into where I know I need to be. And so with Boston, yeah, my parents drove me 10 hours and we had this thing called the Berkeley Beach. So outside this music school, just a bunch of people smoking cigarettes and they're all pierced and tattooed and different color hair and everything. And my mom just says to my stepdad, she was like, these are his people. Like he can be with the weirdos now. But it was fun because I was like, this is my tribe. These are my people. Like
What do you
I
think
was,
about that then? Sorry to jump in. What do you think about that? Like for example, like I'm a teacher by trade, call it, right? And I do this on the side because I enjoy it. And this isn't a linear pathway for me in any sense of the word. I've done a lot of like jack of all trades, master of none. But a lot of the kids that are in the arts at our school will go on an arts path. That's their trajectory. That's what they're going to do. Whereas you're telling me that, like, you know what? I'm going to Boston. I didn't see what was going on. When did you realize that chasing a dream or following the music isn't a linear path at all? Like to all these other people who think that this is the way that it works, what's different and what's better about the way that you did it, just following whatever the path was?
yeah, I always think if you can have a plan and build something before you do anything, I mean, that's ideal. Unfortunately, life is not perfect in that way. So a lot of times you have to step out on faith or the belief that it's going to work out because you don't know. So it's like, I could have went to Boston and crashed and burned. I could have went to Boston and it was great. But I believe you can always find fun and find learning opportunities and find like your path while you're doing something. You have these like eureka moments. And so for me, if I didn't go to Boston when I did early, then I wouldn't have met the friends that I met at that time because they would have been older or out of school by then. It's like, when you're driving in your car and you see an accident right in front of you, it's like if you were a minute earlier, that accident would be you, right? And so in the same way, life is like that. It's like all that natural timing and organic happens for a reason. But if you are doing something that's scary, then that's a good sign, I think, for me. And if you're a visionary, people aren't going to believe that. So I tell people now, if you are a person who dreams, which I think everyone should, you can't go talk to people who didn't dream. You can't talk to people who pissed over their dreams or got upset and quit their dreams because they can't tell you how to dream. They will tell you how to quit. They'll tell you why you shouldn't do it, but they don't know how to tell you should do that. So that's one thing. You got to go find dreamers or what I call the weirdos because you need more weirdos. Normal people are people that play it safe for many reasons. And I'm not judging that. It's just most of the world, 99% of the world will play it safe. Why? Because it's easier. It's easy to wake up and already be average. That takes no effort. So of course, that's what most people will do too. That's why not everybody is an Olympic athlete. That takes sacrifice. It takes work. You look at someone like David Goggins, like he's running all the time. But yeah, you can become a Navy SEAL. I've seen a guy who became he was like in the army and a doctor and then an astronaut or something. It's like, yeah, in a lifetime, he did 3 careers, So I don't think the path has to be linear. I think it's more of like what excites you, what motivates, what energizes you. We talked about energy. Like, what would you get up and do no matter what? Whether you got paid a lot or you got paid a little, what do you just want to do with your time? Because you will live and die either way. Money will come and go. People will come and go. You will come and go. Legacy will come and go. Like people will forget you after a certain point. I didn't even realize that until I watched the movie Coco and I started bawling when they're like, and when the last person who knew you forgets you, you're forgotten. You disappear. It's true. And if I'm going to disappear at some point, I mean, even a person like a Beethoven or Bach or Mozart, there's many contemporaries of them we don't know, right? So it's like, I just want to make the most of that day and make that count and maybe inspire the next person to want to do something. That's what excites me. And so every project that I work on now, it's not like, hey, look at me, I'm amazing. It's like, look at me, a kid from somewhere who came from nothing. If I can do it, you can do it. And so again, yeah, that's not a linear path. It's like I had to make a lot of leaps. And you fall and you break your knees and twist your ankles like in that path. It's not easy, but you learn so much that it gets easier. Like you understand, where do I put my energy and my effort and where do I get a return? So if you look back at my legacy, you can see every album I did and timestamp what I was thinking, what I was learning. But for me, I always make every project slightly different because 1, I'll get bored, but 2, I want to learn something different. I don't want to relearn the same thing. That's why Michael Jackson didn't make Thriller and then Thriller 2 and Thriller 3. You have to move on. You have to progress.
And on that, talking about progressing, am I right here? 2013 to 2023, you released 10 albums in 10 years. Is that right?
Yes, actually.
Looking back at that,
yeah.
Was that more about music or proving something to yourself? Like you talk about then about wanting to leave some sort of legacy. Do you think it was a bit of both, or do you think it was more about just putting out there how you were feeling year by year?
Yeah, I actually remember exactly what was happening. So in 2003, I moved to LA. I started my first band after getting kicked off American Idol called the Moon Crickets. And we did it for about 4 years, from 2003 to 2007. In 2006, we released the record, the Moon Crickets LP, which is now 20 years old this year. And a live record from that CD release became a live record that was released a few years later. But once we disbanded, I was figuring out, okay, like how do I learn about other things and sustain myself? Because you asked that question. So I went back to business school. I got my MBA at Pepperdine. And then I went into a full corporate career while I was still working on music. And then after I was like, okay, it's been a few years, I think since 2007. So about 6 years, I hadn't released anything. And they were like, you should release new music. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to release it under my name. And so what happened is I became the captain of my own ship and the master of my own fate. I wasn't behind this band, but I needed that stepping stone. When I came to LA, I needed to be in a band because I needed those people. I wasn't ready to go solo, just like Michael needed the Jackson 5 before going solo. And so for me, in 2013, it was like, Who the Funk is Cliff Beach? But I made a document called Who the Funk is Cliff Beach and Beyond, because I didn't want to stop at that one record. So I just said, I'm going to make 10 albums in 10 years, because I knew if I made a big goal and I got halfway there, I would have 5. And I could barely get 1 at that time, but I knew over time I would learn. I always tell people it's like Wizard of Oz. It's like you land in Oz and you walk the path, and then you find your scarecrow and your Tin Man and your lion. It doesn't happen at day 1, but on that path, now you're together, now you're on that journey. And so I've had band members for the last 10, 15 years because of that, and some have come and some have gone and some have stayed, but they pushed me to be better and to lead better and to do stuff. And so when I say nonlinear path, that branched over the years from being a good singer and a great keyboardist to a great songwriter to a great producer to a great record label owner and putting out your own content, and then having all those records to speak to and then getting awards from those records and just pushing the envelope higher. So it's like getting into radio, getting into TV, licensing music. All those things came like as a tree with a bunch of branches, but I didn't know that was going to happen in the beginning. But I knew if I say, hey, I'm going to go big or go home, well, I was already home. So I was like, I'm just going to go big. 10 records.
Was that like the shiny, like following the shiny, like following the dangling keys, like something else, something different every single time? My next question is, how'd you get kicked off American Idol?
Oh my gosh. Well, you get to Carnegie Hall by practice. You get
True.
kicked out of American Idol by not practice, I guess. But so basically, American Idol is a funny thing because they tell you as you get through different rounds with the executive producers, they tell you flat out, we will deny you, and it doesn't mean that you're not good. It means you're not good for TV. You're not good for the fit of what we're producing. And so that was hard because at the time I took it really personal. Like it was a hard gut punch. It's like someone, you have a baby and then people come to the hospital and they're like, your baby's ugly. Like that's what happened to me, but on TV, right? And my parents are there and it's like this moment that they want you to break down. And I was like really sad, but it also made me really angry. And that anger made me have the catalyst to say, forget them. I'm going to start my own band and I'm going to get funding and I'm going to put this record out, which we did with the Moon Crickets. And so I wouldn't have pushed it as hard if it came early. I think also I might have self-destructed if I had fame too soon. I don't think I was ready for it. And ultimately I was able to, as big as you become as an artist, some people don't care about maintaining the integrity. But for me, I really wanted to keep my art the way I want it. I didn't want to be beholden to anybody and their money and using their people, because I had that. With the first record, we had someone sponsor that record, and so I had to use their people, and they didn't come out the way I 100% liked. So when I started making my own thing, I was like, I'm going to fund it myself. I'm going to use the people that I know. I'm going to build the group. And it took me more time. And yes, you might not get as big as a household name, but I made everything happen. So when I finally got to having success, having in 2019, putting out a single that won John Lennon Songwriting Contest and had over 1 million streams, I did that soup to nuts, start to finish, which was a great feeling. Because then when I did work with other labels in the future, I didn't have to prove that part because I had already done it. I had the receipts for it. And now you're forced to, as an artist, you're forced to bring proof of concept to market before someone will touch you. I mean, I'm not saying it's never happening, but very rare that you just come out with nothing and someone's like, okay, let me help you. So
yeah,
I,
9 times
I
out of
enjoyed
10,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because, again, it made me collaborate. It made me think outside the box. It made me stretch myself. And it was really uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because I stay uncomfortable like all the time. I might not show it on my face, but I do a lot of things that scare me all the time.
This might have been you in your day job as well when you're balancing it, but I feel like sometimes you're languishing, aren't you? Like I constantly try and find things that are going to challenge me and put me in a spot where I'm like, that helps me, that keeps me going, that keeps my powder dry, keeps me moving. I can understand that 100%.
I mean, I think there was a person who said, well, there's two things. One, there was like a person who was like seeing someone playing piano and they came by and they're like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to learn piano. And the person was like, you don't. And they were like, how dare you say that? I've always wanted to learn it. They said, you don't. If you did, you'd be doing it. That's it. That's flat. And then the second thing is that someone was like, oh, I don't want to do it. It's going to take too much time. And they were like, the time passes either way. So the thing is like, we're all going to die. So like, if you want to do it and you know what you want to do, or you want to take the time to figure that out, that's up to you to decide that. If you want to wake up and be a writer, write. If you want to be a musician, sing, play. Like you don't need anyone's permission. All you need to do is sweat equity, what you put into it, and you can 5-10x that. When I started public speaking in 2014 and did a TED Talk in 2014 in Napa Valley, what I learned is Tony Robbins, who I admire and took some of his programs, to get to be a great speaker quickly, he would see people in his office speaking, once a month. He was like, I'm going to speak 5 times a day. And if you do that, like if you're practicing and shredding to that level exponentially, if you're at the gym every day working out, you'll see the results, because you're doing it, especially if you're talking to people and getting those tips, tweaking it as you go. Doesn't mean when you start, it's going to be great in the beginning, but like as you go through the process, you'll learn. That's why I always tell people, like, find a way to have impossible goals and to accelerate them, because you sometimes underwhelm yourself to a point where you underestimate what you could actually achieve and get done. Most people actually hold back. They have a fear of someone coming and saying, is there more? And you don't want to say, I'm tapped. So people naturally only go to like 80%. They don't go to 100 or 110% or whatever.
It's nice to be a dreamer. When you look back, right, and I'm listening to you, like you are me, maybe a little bit more higher energy than me. My wife and my mates and everybody else around me will say the same thing. Like, I'm always looking for something to do. I like keeping myself busy. I like looking for the next thing. Like this in itself, this conversation that we're having now and this podcast and everything, this is me trying to get myself out there and leave a little bit of a stamp on things and get things done. But you're right, it is a lot. And especially when you got the day job, when you've got other things, you're going from this to this to this, and you're trying to catch yourself up. Like if you look back now, because you've just described a lot of things to me, when did you first realize some of the challenges that you were coming into that may not have been connected to work or health or whatever it was? Like it was about a little bit much more deeper.
Yeah, I mean, it's many ways that I could go there. I mean, when I was born, I was sick. I was premature and I had a lot of health problems growing up. Being a person of color, I grew up in a Black family, and it was known that you would have challenges. So it was like resilience as a muscle was like from birth for me. So but we grew up with a lot of faith. So we're like, tap into God, into the universe, and to you have this potential. But see, potential is a dangerous thing because everybody has it, but not everybody will cultivate it. Not everybody will use it, right? Like I could have a seed, but if it sits on my desk and I don't plant it and I don't water it, then nothing happens. So it's like, it's not that you couldn't do it. We all have the potential. We're all equal as souls, but we're not equal in the marketplace. We're not equal, but how we put it together. That's why you can see on TV an idea and say, oh, I thought of that. Yeah, but you didn't bring it to market. You didn't do the work. And so people don't get to complain about what they didn't get for the work they didn't do. So I was born with challenges and I just had to constantly pivot. So by the time I grew up in school and then as an adult, I was just used to it. I was used to when I used to watch Project Runway with Tim Gunn, who was like the fashion person with Heidi Klum, people would be making all these weird fashion things and they'd be like, it's just like the cooking shows or anything else. But he would just see what they were doing. He's like, no matter what, make it work. Like my whole life has been make it work. You can't cry over what didn't happen or what mom and dad didn't do because that part is over. You cannot go back and change the past. So crying over it won't do anything. You can learn from the past, but you need to focus on the present and how you're going to impact the future. And so it was just that resilience that I learned that you will always have challenges. It will always be difficult. Life never gets easier. You can become better. That's the only part of the equation that you can actually do anything about.
Yeah.
And so I just became really tough with myself in terms of not making excuses. Because excuses are so easy to find. There's always an excuse, but there's not a good reason. If it's something that anybody could do, well, then I don't need to focus on that because everybody's doing that. I do the thing that only I can do. If I'm only going to have so much time on earth, then I need to get the me projects done. And so there's a balance of like, yes, I work. Yes, I have gainful employment to sustain myself and make these other projects happen. But just because I say, oh, I don't have the energy or I don't have the time, I do. I might not focus my energy or focus that time, but we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Because that was the crux of when I started working on writing my book. Side Hustle and Flow, the first book, was all about answering one question. Why is this person's life amazing and this one isn't? And they came from the same circumstances and the same challenges. The difference maker is one decided to not be a victim and be a victor. They chose to be the captain of their own ship and the master of their own fate. They happened to life. They didn't let life happen to them. That is the difference. And so that's what I had to cultivate. And it wasn't like from birth, but it definitely in adulthood. I would say about 30, when I started on the trajectory of making those records, that's when I said, it's up to me now. I'm the adult. I'm the person. So if this record doesn't get done, that's on me. You don't have to put the thing out with all the bells and the whistles and everything. You can put a demo out and use AI or whatever, get it out there to get the feedback. And then as you improve, every
Mm.
project gets better. My 10th album was better than my first because I had more money and time and access that I didn't have. But I wouldn't have had that if I didn't start the road with the first one.
True, yeah. When you listen to some of my first podcasts, it's painful. And that was only 2.5 years ago. And you're like, now it's a little bit more advanced. They got more tech. I've got more experience. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely right. But with the pressure that you put on yourself, maybe, and this being outside the comfort zone and dealing with that, because as much as you won't show it, you've talked to other people in the past about unresolved traumas that have showed up in burnout, in addiction, in avoidance, in unhealthy patterns. Like, how did those things begin to manifest themselves day to day before you really realized what was happening?
Yeah, I think it's like boiling a frog. It's like over time. So you don't realize it right away. And then by the end, you're cooked. So it's like when you start gaining weight or developing bad habits, you don't notice it. And you also, like the ugly duckling, when you're with a certain group, you may fit in, you may not. And so who you're around influences you heavily, and it also influences on how you think. And how you think or mindset really is the crux of being able to make these choices or changes. So you have to step out of yourself, like an out-of-body experience, to see yourself objectively, to have a self-awareness of where you want to improve. You can't just assume you know everything or that all the knowledge you had the last 10 years is going to carry you into the next 10 years. So yeah, I definitely had a road of where I wasn't as productive and I wasn't as focused and I wasn't as driven. It's like if you are young and you start saving for retirement, well, you can save a lot less year by year at 20, knowing that you're going to retire at 65. But if you start at 40, you're going to have to accelerate how much you dump in there to catch up to the person because of the compound interest. And so
That's
that's
me.
yeah, so that's what was happening with me is the compound interest of my life. If I had gotten healthier earlier, I could have hustled harder. I could have gotten way more done. Like for the energy I have more energy now. Now imagine I was 75 pounds heavier. Imagine that I had diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and it was hard to walk uphill to breathe. So if it's hard to breathe, how do you sing as well? And that kind of thing. And so it was like it was like an ecosystem. And once I realized that everything was connected and having a holistic approach to life, it's having a space and a place for everything, and deciding what you want to do with that space and time.
Do you think that when you had that success, especially early on, do you think that made it more okay? Like you talk about things like being overweight, you talk about maybe problems with addiction and certain things. And do you think early on, because you were successful or you're having some level of success or achievement, winning awards, whatever it was, that it was harder? It was harder to have the conversation with yourself, like, well, listen, I'm doing okay, so I don't need to worry about this, this, and this because whatever I'm doing is working, so I'm going to carry on doing it.
Yes, yes, it's like you don't notice it right away. So I
Yeah,
think the fallacy of having early success is that what you did to get that success is sustainable for the long run. In the short run, it was fine. In the short run, you can drink coffee and work 16 hours a day, for 7 days a week. But eventually, like you will burn out. And so I get to points of doubt and wanting to quit and things being hard and taking on too many projects. Like you can say yes to everything, but to really have autonomy, you have to have the power of no. You have to know not now. You have to know not ever. depending on what it is. You have to know you could be working so hard, but if you're climbing a ladder and then you get to the top and realize it was on the wrong wall, the wrong building, the wrong city, the wrong state, the wrong place with the wrong person, well, that's all wrong. Like there's nothing you can do. And so, but you won't know that. Like as a Christian, in the creation story, God creates every day, and in the seventh day he rested, and he says everything was good. But you have to stop, look back and reflect, then you know if it was good. So if you just keep bulldozing through life, that will not be sustainable. It was like as you get older, you might not have the energy and be able to do that. You may be split because you have a family, you have other commitments. And so to be able to do the things that you still want to do. Because just because you have a family, just because you have a spouse, just because you have other commitments, volunteer, church, whatever it is, it does not negate that you have a purpose and a plan for your life, and those projects you still need to get done. You might not be able to do them all in the same span of time, but you still owe it to yourself. Like you still have an identity and an autonomy as a person, that there is something that you need to do, that the world needs from you. And the graveyard will be rich with it if you don't get it done in time.
Did you have a point where you took a step, you took a beat, and you look back and you're like, right, okay, this is great, but I need to fix this, this, and this? I think you mentioned about getting sober in 2019. Was that the point? Was there a moment there in 2019 where you're like, right, okay, this is good, but this is not so good, so I need to fix it?
Yeah, I mean, sobriety was multifolded for me. One, it forced me no longer to numb. So I had to go back and deal with trauma from childhood and therapy and recovery and addiction. But beyond that, on the music side, I didn't realize when I look back and reflect at old video content and stuff, how drunk I was at shows. And I thought I was the hot thing, and I wasn't. And so there's a really funny Family Guy where they smoke and then they show like the video after and they're like, this was god awful. And that's how I was. It was like, oh, I thought I was the hot ticket. I was not. I had stepped in a few what they call pasture patties, all in the poop. And so now being sober, I have the focus, laser beam focus, where I can decide where I want my voice to go, where I want my fingers to go. So I am a better musician sober than I was drunk. Now, the issue was, you think when you use that crutch for so long, you think, what will be my identity? How will people see me? Will I be as fun? But then I had to remember, well, wasn't I fun as a kid before I drank? You know, I would like to say 21. I would say 16. But I was like, was I still fun? I was like, yes, of course you are. You're still you, no matter what. And so that was like healthy for me to do that. And then from that, when you have that focus and health, and you're no longer numbing and you have that clarity mentally, then exponentially you can get more done because it's very clear to see what the steps are. It was like if you are always operating out of a fog or a haze, you can slowly amble through it. But if you clear that all out, like the smoke clears and the horizon is blue and bright, I can see the clear path for many miles ahead, which I didn't have that foresight before. But it's difficult. I mean, I would say in the 12-step program, the hardest thing is bearing your soul to a person. And I mean, the good, the bad, the ugly, knowing that they're going to keep your, stuff anonymous, but it's still difficult. It's hard. I mean, if it was easy to deal with pain and trauma, everybody would heal and be helped. But that's not a road that everybody wants to take. But it is a choice. You're only as sick as the secrets that you keep. So if you want to get well, you're going to have to give up those secrets to at least one person, to at least your higher power or something, whatever you call it. Because once you lose the weight, and I'm talking about emotional weight, but physical weight too, but emotional weight, you don't know how heavy you are until you're weightless. When you're weightless, now you can float. Now you can fly. But you can't do that when you're encumbered and burdened. I think we buzz and vibrate when we're doing that. And I think the world just needs more joy. It needs someone to say it's okay to do this thing, whether you make money or not, because it makes you happy and it brings you joy and it makes other people happy and it brings them joy. And if you help enough people find happiness and joy, then I think you can monetize that if you want to.
Yeah, that's the secret, isn't it? If you can do that, that's the secret. Did you have people around you at the time where, when all this was going on and you make the decision to get yourself sober and get yourself into the program, that were supportive? Like, were people like, nah, you're fine, it's okay, carry on? Or were people genuinely like, yeah, you know what, this is the right thing for you, this needs to happen?
It's a split. I will say nobody told me that I had gotten fatter over the years. Like, no one ever said that to me. But like, literally, if you look at old photos, I tell people it's like, it looks like someone just went,
Yeah.
I just deflated. And you're like, wow, I never realized it, because when that's your normal and you're in it, you don't realize it. Like, I didn't realize I had cracked 200, 215, 220 on this small 5'7" frame. And I eventually got down to 145. Now I'm like a healthy, muscular 160ish. But it was a path. I also wasn't sure when I started that I could do it. I mean, again, like the 10 records in 10 years, I said with a dietitian, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 5 months, which we did from July to November. That was crazy. But people are like, that's so aggressive. I was like, but massive action gets massive results. And if I accelerate, I will stick with it. I think some people don't stick with it because they give themselves too much time. If you're like, oh, I'll do it in 3 years, I want to get it done in 3 months, because it'll push me to really go the distance. And then you'll be surprised, you'll stick with it afterwards. Like, I've now tracked all my eating 1,050 days or something, however long it's been, 3.5 years, 4 years. And people are like, oh, that's really hard. It is, until you get used to it, but then it becomes your normal. But it's real commitment. I'll tell that. Someone was asking me to do something, and I was like, I don't do maybes. And my therapist was like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't do half commitments. I don't have steps. You're either pregnant or you're not. Because what happens is that when you fully commit and you fully immerse yourself, then you have no choice but to succeed. Because I was only looking forward. I wasn't looking at backwards. I wasn't looking like, oh my gosh, I gained this weight. Now I have the challenges. I was like, I can reverse this. Even when the doctors were like, you can't. I mean, they weren't like, you can't, but they were like, you probably won't. It's highly unlikely. Or there were people around who were like, but we're drinking buddies and I don't hang out with them as much. It was okay. It's like, you cannot fly with eagles, scratching with the turkeys. So if you want to fly up there and have that sight, you're going to have new friends. I started hanging around people who were reading books and wanted to learn and wanted to push me. The people, if I come around them and they say, oh, that's not for you, or that, or people think, oh, you're a machine, or you're different, you're like special in that way. I was like, there's no special way to success. It's like, just put a plan together, take some actions, see if it's working, adjust. But there's no secret. I mean, you have to do the work. I mean, if someone's like, how did you write that book? I sat down to the computer every day and I wrote a page until it was done. That was it. It was like, I didn't know how to do it, but through the process, I learned how to do it.
I did read this somewhere, that you stopped viewing discipline as a punishment and started seeing it as a form of self-respect. And like, there's the stuff that you're saying there now about losing the weight, keeping the weight off, staying away from the bad influences, getting different friends who are going to challenge you and push you. Like, how long did it take that shift to happen? Because I think about that now with me. I think about that with people. I can think of 10 people off the top of my head now that maybe need that little bit of push and understanding it. How long did that take for you, realizing that discipline was not a burden?
I mean, that happened from childhood. So when I was learning the discipline of practicing piano, I hated music in the beginning. I hated looking out the window and seeing people playing on the playground, and I was doing, chopsticks or whatever from the window. Like, I want to be outside. I was like, this sucks. But I didn't know as a kid that I would love music and want to make it a career, and the places that it would take me and everything. So that's one thing. But once you realize that you've cultivated a discipline, it was then easy for me to say, where else can I apply discipline? Because discipline exists. Like, if you think about anyone's life, there is something they have a discipline for. Like, they've learned how to do their career, they learned a vocation, they learned a handyman skill or something. There's something that they can do that took them time to learn, and they spent the time. They did the 10,000 hours. And then you say, okay, what else could I spend the 10,000 hours on? Like, where laterally can I move it? And I think that was the success of being able to keep weight off, is that I did sobriety, then I did eating, then I did gym. I didn't do them all at once, because I would have definitely quit if I tried to go big with that. If I was like, let's do all three, I'd be like, this is too hard. Once you remove things that are not serving you from your life, then it makes it easier to pick up other things. That was one thing that I learned from 12 steps, is that when you are going to drop one thing, you have to immediately replace it with something else. So like, if I don't drink And I say every time I wish I would drink, I'll drink water. Now I have a good habit of drinking water. You have to switch to something. If you switch and say, I'm not going to drink, but I have no plan B, you'll go back to plan A because you didn't replace it with anything else. When you're young, you have to decide your ethics before the ethical dilemma question comes to you. You can't wait till the question comes and then decide because you're already cooked. In the same way, if you are going to become a person who doesn't drink or doesn't smoke or whatever it is, then you have to know who you are. I'm the person that won't do that. And my replacement is I'll drink water, I'll go to the gym, I'll call a friend, whatever it is. You have to have an immediate positive action to replace the negative action, because if not, gravity will pull you down. You'll go back into the negative action. In the same way, you have to also sometimes change your friend circle. If your friend circles are all drinking and in the bar and that's not the place for you, then you're going to have to be with the bookish people in the library or something, or out hiking or whatever it is. I'm not telling you what to do, because that's the other thing, is that everything else you decide. So like with healthy eating, I worked with a dietitian. They show you, and you can decide what you want to eat. They don't put a meal plan together for you, because I'll tell people, if you don't like sardines, do not put that in your menu, because you'll quit. You'll quit immediately because this is gross. Yes, cottage cheese can help people lose weight. If you hate it, don't put it on the menu. So you do have choices, of what you decide. Like but I learned through that process with eating. They said, learn to love the foods that love you back. So I use that for everything. Whatever you're doing, only if it loves you back, continue. If it's not loving you back, let it go. Let it go in every aspect of life. And Marie Kondo did the same thing. She tidied up everything. She said, touch it, does it spark joy? If it sparks joy, keep it. If it doesn't, let it go.
Do you see people struggling with change themselves because they're trying to punish themselves to be something different?
Yes. I mean, that's the thing. So we know at the end of life with hospice, people's biggest regret is living a life that someone else wanted for them. You cannot live a life or be someone else, right? So that will be whatever. Like if you're looking at people like, I want their body, but that body's not you. Like you're not that body shape, that body type, that genetic to do that, then you're not going to have that. Not everybody's going to walk out of the gym and have six pack. Also, sometimes that's lighting. Sometimes that's dehydration. There's a lot of stuff that people don't realize. And so you can't live the life or have the life of someone else. So like for me, for years, I used to be pissed. I'd watch the Grammys. I'd be like, when's my time going to come? But I've met people who won Grammys and it's not what you think. And what I learned is that no matter what you do in life, if that Grammy is for you, it's coming to you. But if that Grammy is for them, it's never coming to you. So you can't cry over that, because it was never going to happen. And we need to celebrate and be happy for their day. It doesn't mean your day is not going to come, but it just wasn't that day. And I've had many contests I've won and many I haven't. So I think sometimes, yes, people beat themselves up because they believe their doubts, and then that doubt becomes tough. You have to believe your beliefs and doubt your doubts. But ultimately, just do the best you can, one day at a time. It's all a practice. It's never done. It's not like, oh my God, it's all or nothing that kills us. That's the thing that you're talking about, is that people are putting an all or nothing. That's why New Year's resolutions don't work. People quit so early because the first day they miss it, they throw out the baby, the bathwater, the bathtub, but that's not going to help you. Just get right back on, start again.
On that as well, because you make a good point there. How important is it to have a little bit of a community around you, whoever it is? Like, there's people who are going to question why you're doing certain things. There's always going to be somebody, hopefully, that's around you so that you can't do these things in isolation. What have you found it to be so important to have those people that, like I said, if you come off the wagon or if you fall off the ladder?
Definitely. I mean, two are better than one, and if someone falls, they can pull you out of a ditch. Like there's some tough things. I've done some home projects where it's like, wow, I just need another set of hands. Not even skilled hands, but I just need a person. I need a task rabbit, someone to come. And so yeah, you can go faster alone, but you can go farther together. There's a reason that we're wired for community. Even being a person who likes to isolate and likes to work alone, you can't be in a vacuum forever and nobody is self-made, because people will encourage you. People will see things differently and make you think differently. Sometimes you need that feedback. Sometimes you need that obstinance. But it's who you tell, right? Like you have an inner circle and people you can trust. And that's different than acquaintances in the larger mass world. Because there's many people in the mass. Yeah, the outer circle can be tough. Like as an artist, you can't preach to the outer circle because they're not the fans. That's why Billy Joel doesn't sell the front row seats anymore. He takes the people from the back, the true fans, to the front, because it was only people that were rich and money who weren't really fans buying the front. You don't want that. And so that outer circle, I mean, they're all important. Like you have a hierarchy of how you listen to them, and you have to grow a thick skin for certain stuff. And certain goals you do incubate alone. I worked a lot on my health by myself, or very few people knowing about it. And then I just emerged from this cocoon metamorphosis later. And people are like, oh, this has happened. Because you can have people, crabs in a bucket, bring you down. So it's not everybody. But if you get into a circle of like-minded people who can help you with positive feedback, and give you information that can help you, and connect you with people that can help you, then yes, I think you will. I don't think there's any time that you're going to be able to do 100% all alone. I haven't known anyone who did a Walden Pond where there's just one person in a cabin in the woods living off the land, and I don't want to talk to anybody. I mean, that's tough. And even then, your mind will split into two people just to have someone to talk to.
Yeah, well, that's a dangerous place as well, isn't it, sometimes? So with you talked about a little bit before, you've got the books out, Side Hustle and Flow books, and you talked a little bit about the first one. When you look at the book 1 and book 3, how much has the author changed since book 1, from book 1 to book 3?
Well, I mean, he got skinnier over time, each book. Serious, for sure. But you know what? I learned about the audience. I learned about the medium. So writing helped me learn how to effectively communicate in a different way. It was a different medium from music and songwriting. And there's a great book by Robert McKee called Story, which a lot of people use to write screenplays and films and TV scripts and books and stuff. But it explained to me how medium shifts adapt to certain audiences, and also how you tell a story. Because I didn't realize that songwriting and books and my life, they're all stories, essentially. Different mediums cannot express a story in the same way. In the book, you're reading it, you're the director, and your mind is making a movie, which will always be better because you're the director. The director and the actor, they're all making choices and editing for that film, and the film has to be cut for a certain time and viewed a certain way. So, even a Harry Potter, 700-page book split into 2 movies, it's not going to be the same. And so you go into it knowing, when I'm working on books, who is my audience? What's in it for them? And so from book 1 to book 3, book 1 was, how do I put a plan together and have goals? The second book was, oh my gosh, if I was healthier, I could apply book 1 even faster, because health is a part of that. Like when people say work-life balance, health, mental health, that's the balance. That's a part of it. And then finally, the third book was bite-sized chunks. The Daily Grind is all about people who can't read a full-length book because they don't have the attention span. This is no excuses. 15 to 30 seconds. Think about this one prompt. What is holding you back? If you could do it with no fear and no failure, what would you do? Because
That's the
that's
one
what
I
you're
need.
doing.
That's the one I'm going. I'm going for book 3, defo. Someone will shine some keys over here, I'll be gone. So I need book 3. If someone's reading this, like obviously I've just said then, I mean, not even joking, book 3. If readers are taking one thing from this series of books, what do you hope that it is?
I had an album in 2022 or 2023. It was called We're All Just a Kid from Somewhere. I think what I want is them to take hope that no matter what age, what socioeconomic background, what did or didn't happen in childhood, now is the time. You still are on earth and breathing and capable. You can get it done, no matter what it is, no matter how daunting and how big. You can get it done. Teamwork, you can build one, make the dream work, all those things. Colonel Sanders started KFC at 65. Grandma Moses started painting at 80. Jessica Tandy won an Oscar at 89. Like, it can be done. All these little stories, all these people on social media that tell you these heartfelt stories, you see, I see people getting in the best shape of their life in their 50s and 60s and 70s now. And so there isn't a time limit to be able to get these things done. So my books aren't read them and do everything I did, because I don't think you can. The time has evolved and technology changes so rapidly you cannot do exactly that, but you can learn the clues of success. Putting a plan together, setting a goals, those things haven't changed. Getting healthier, those things, eat less, exercise more, that didn't change, and then from there, just take one little idea and apply it. That's the secret. Take a small idea and apply it every day. Well, and 365 ideas will change your life.
What does a healthy support system look like to you today?
Oh my gosh, healthy support system. I mean, it's who you create. Like, people grow up and they have a family, and sometimes your family is your tribe. Sometimes it isn't. But for me, I was always excited about friends. I was always excited about curating my own groups, bringing people together that maybe wouldn't come together, and being the connector and the hub. Because that was exciting to me. Because I like people. I like to have diversity. I like to see things. I like to walk into a place where I don't know anybody and come out with, 20 new people. And that's exciting to me. I like to go around the world and see how other people live. I like cross-cultural exchange because I get to understand more about myself. And when I come back, what I really love about being in America, and that it is still great to me. And again, a place where you can decide any day what you want to become. Like, you don't need a license to be anything. I mean, a doctor and stuff like that. But I mean, in terms of like, you want to be right, you want to produce, you want to make movies, you don't need anyone's help. Just do it. Get your iPhone out, make it happen. So I guess the tribe is basically built around whatever you're trying to accomplish and who you want to curate for that group. And it doesn't have to always be the same people. And it may not be, not everybody's going to be forever people. Some people will. Some people are going to go the distance, but not everybody. Let them organically come, in and out, weave in and out.
I like the Oz analogy from before. I like that. I definitely, I like it off the top of my head. I'm like, yeah, I know the Tin Man. I know who that is. I know who the lion is. It's really good.
Yeah, they changed it in Wiki. He's so angry. But the last part of that step is you get to the wizard, you realize that there is no magical person that can do anything for you. What did she learn? You have the power. You could go home anytime. You had it all along. And there's no place like home. So that's why I love that story, because it teaches you in the end, you've gained through the experience. And so that's why people are like, oh, like, how did you become so tough? How did you become resilient? Experience. How do you become better? Making good decisions. How do you learn to make good decisions? By making bad decisions, and then making better decisions, and then making good ones. Like, that's experience. It does not happen. You suck before you succeed. You do not start out knowing everything. You know nothing. That's what all Asian proverbs teach you, is that the person who thinks they know knows they know nothing. Like, that's how we all start. We come into the world and get slapped and have to have experiences to learn and figure it out.
For someone who feels stuck or overwhelmed or isolated, what would you say to them, or what would you want them to know to help them understand about asking for help?
Ooh, that's tough. Well, I think you should definitely get comfortable asking for help. But I will make the caveat that most of life is learning to put the S on your chest. No one is coming. I've had many times, if you read the books, where I got kicked in the teeth and nobody came. I asked for help, nobody wanted to help. So resilience is learning I'm becoming self-reliant. If nobody comes, it's still up to me whether I get the help or not. But I think you will. There's many times where you put it out there. You say, I'm looking to make a film. I'm looking to make a record. If you start blasting, I want to do this, someone in your network will say, you should talk to so-and-so. They know about it. And then they'll say, you should talk to so-and-so, or let's both go talk to so-and-so, and further up the road. So 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. 6 degrees will get you to anybody. Everybody is findable and everything is figure outable. But I would say, if you're feeling overwhelmed, underwhelm yourself. What is the one thing you can do today that you know you can do? If you can send an email to one person, then you did that one thing, and that's all good. And if that email gets you to the next person, then it's great. It doesn't have to be the end-all be-all thing. It's not like, oh my gosh, I got to get to the head of Sony today. It's like, I might get to the mailroom Sony guy today, but now I'm at least in the building. There's a path, the way you do that. So underwhelm yourself, and eventually you keep asking enough people, and you squeak loud enough, somebody will hear you, and somebody will say, you know what? I'll connect you to someone, or this is how you get there. Or go talk to this person who's done it before. I tell people all the time with business, there's a thing called score.org. You can go talk to a retired person from any business vertical. And if they've worked in that area, they will mentor you for free and teach you and tell you like what you need to know. Oh, you want to do marketing? And I've been a marketing exec for 20 years. I pick my brain. Take me out for coffee. I will tell you some secrets of marketing if that's what you want to know. And so, people used to have apprenticeships. You wanted to be a blacksmith, you would learn how to forge swords with a guy for 20 years. He died and you take over. Like, we need
Yeah.
more of that. We need, like, go find someone killing it and winning and learn from them. That's everybody.
Yeah. Be humble enough to learn as well. All right. Couple more for you, mate. If you could sit down now with the kid watching Moonwalker all those years ago, what would you tell him for advice? And also, what do you think he'd find hardest to believe about the life you built today? Out with the fact that Michael Jackson's shoes were nailed to the floor. Because I only found that out about 5 years ago.
To do the lean, yeah, for sure. You gotta nail it to the floor. That's an interesting thing because the kid in me had idealism and optimism that adult me doesn't have the same level. I try to get to that kid inside of me and still have it, but it burns off a layer of just you are unprepared in adulthood how difficult it's going to be. But watching Moonwalker from an artistic standpoint, I love seeing what you can aspire and be inspired to be. Be the best. And Moonwalker teaches you of a person who was the best and became the most successful because they dared to dream big. They got through different challenges. They built a team of the best, and they did things that were scary and had never been done and forged that path. And they studied the greats. That man studied Bob Fosse and Broadway and old movies and Charlie Chaplin. Like, that's how you become successful. So don't come to me saying you want to be a musician and you only know what happened in the last 5-10 years of music. You need to go back 100 years in music. You need to find everybody's influence and their influence and go back as far as you can. If you really want to be great at the craft. I'm not talking about people who go to school and learn how to take a test. I'm talking about people who dedicated themselves to actually learn the logic and the reason and the why and how to be successful. Because all these things that people thought that were created by Michael the Moonwalker were created by many other people. He was an amalgamation of all these things that he combined and made interesting. And business and everything else, they do that. So Moonwalker taught me about that idealism and aspiration, how to learn from the greats, how to put things together. And it just had that wow factor. But looking at his life outside of Moonwalker in a whole, it also reminds me that fame is not what it's cracked up to be. And it's not an easy life. Like, being the most successful musician in the world doesn't mean you were the most successful person in the world, which
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It's like, if you've done everything and forsake all of your health and relationships, I would not do that again. And that was a hard lesson to learn. Like, I wish I didn't get healthy until after 40, but I wish I got healthy at 20. I wish I was healthy. I met a person who was like, "Oh, I don't drink. I never drank." I wish I never drank. I mean, in that way. I mean, I don't, in that I learned from it, so I don't regret my past. But I'm saying the best way to not have to get out of an addiction is to never have it and to learn how to deal with your feelings. Because that, when you start taking medications and stuff that numb your feelings, you might survive the day, but you don't thrive in that day because you're not fully yourself.
Mm.
You put a ceiling on your feeling and a cap. And so, yeah, that might make your lows not as low, but it also, your highs are not as high. And you need those highs. You need, like, when you're dating someone, you need butterflies. You need risk. You need something. If it was like everybody could do it, then that's not exciting. If everyone could be rich and everyone could be skinny, it would devalue it. It would lose its meaning and purpose. And also, like, there'd be nothing to post on Instagram or TikTok or anything. But I think that's what I would learn, is that when I was a kid, there was an old lady and she taught me this thing where it's like, chew the meat, spit out the bones. So whether I'm watching Moonwalker or Life, it's like, pull the pieces that help you and use them, knowing that you're not going to be able to use everything in that information. Or you may have something that you discard and pick up later, like in a different part of life. You may read a book and have a different epiphany than you did 20 years ago because you're in a different part of life. Like if I start reading a book about having a family and I'm getting married, I might see it differently than before that time in my life. And so I think for me, it's just always about lifelong learning. They're like, if you watch Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all that stuff, he has this thing where he like changes all the time and his hair turns like bright blonde. And he's like, this is not my final form. This is not my final form. I'm not done. And
So
don't count me out.
on that, coming up to 7 years sober, you talk about the compound interest of your life. What does the future hold for Cliff Beach?
I think for me, and so I'm just on the tipping point of volunteerism and giving back. And so that's where I'm at. It's like tipping point is how can you benefit and give back to society? How can you give to the people? Not always in mass, just in your smaller circle. How do I help my nephews? How do I help kids at the church? How do I help young musicians with Grammy U coming up? What do I want them to know? I just learned as a musician speaking at NAMM and going to Berkeley and studying music business and business, they never told us you are a business. I was never told that. I wasn't told you're an entrepreneur and you're forced to market yourself and you have to know social media and you have to know all the 5 Ps of marketing and all that stuff. You are the business. You are selling your goods and services to the market. And if you want to be able to do that, you're the business all the time. You incorporate it. Would you hire you? Would you fire you? And based on that information, there's work to be done either way. And so that was eye-opening for me because it sounds like a no-brainer. But that's not just in my field of music. I had a cousin who was a barber. No one tells you you're a business. You're renting a booth. How much does it cost? How many heads do you have to cut to make that rent? How much do you have to do to make your house rent? Like that, there's no life 101. No one teaches you how to build a life. No one teaches you how to make it work. And so people who have learned how to do that, we owe it to the younger generation to not take it for granted because when it's news to me, it's news to them. Because 20 years later, school still isn't teaching that you're a business. And they're not going to.
Not at all. Not at all. All right, one more question for you. It's a bit self-indulgent from me. If you were to describe this conversation, Cliff, in one sentence, might be difficult. If you were to describe it in one sentence, what would you say?
This conversation in one sentence, the title of Crossing the Pond, I just remember this thing that says, a ship is safest at the dock, but it's meant to sail. So this conversation is all about feeling the fear, doing it anyway, doing it scared, getting out into that water. Are you the Titanic? Could you sink? Possibly. But could you also make it to the new world? You won't know until you start on the journey.
That's actually quite good. I'm stealing that. That's mine now. Cliff, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope you've got something out of it as well, but some of the stuff that you said was really, really cool, mate.
Awesome, Gary. Anytime. I love just being able to converse with like-minded people who are just trying to make the world a better place by getting more education, knowing that education doesn't start or stop in the classroom. It's lifelong learning out here in the real world where it's tactical, not theoretical.
No, exactly. All right. If you wouldn't mind indulging me, I have a couple of quick fire questions that I give to everyone at the end. And when we're done and we say, I'll say thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind staying on for like a minute, just so it uploads to the server and all that stuff. First question. Favorite superhero?
Oh, Black Panther, for sure.
All right.
Wakanda forever.
Okay, fair enough. All right, okay. All right. One Michael Jackson song that if pushed, that's the one that you would sing.
Actually, though, you know what? If I'm going to go back to my favorite superhero before Black Panther, Batman. Batman, right. Because he's human. Because he does it all with work.
So I had this conversation with someone else, right? And Batman is my favorite because I feel, not that I could be Batman, but I could theoretically be Batman, right? But is Batman a superhero or is he just some guy that's got loads of money and loads of cool gadgets?
Yes. And he also has childhood trauma. So I see a little bit of me in that. But I actually relate the most to the Joker. Joker has this crazy Killing Game book where he basically says, Batman, you could be just like me. We all have one bad day where we make a choice of who we become. And I believe that for both of them. So
That's fair.
Batman,
All right.
I think, he's not an alien that has superpowers. He had to make something happen with money.
I don't disagree with you at all. Don't disagree with you. All right, okay, I'll go back to the other one. If you had to sing one MJ song, what would it be?
The Way You Make Me Feel.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. Oh, that's brilliant. I've already just preempted myself. All right, if you could say this, who is the nicest member of the American Idol judge panel?
Paula Abdul.
Who's the worst?
That's such a toss-up. I don't think there are any of them that are the worst. I think they just call it the way they see it.
That was a very diplomatic answer, and I will take that as Simon Cowell. All right. I asked this to everybody. What's your favourite dinosaur?
A T-Rex.
All right. Okay. I'm just
but they'll never pay for a bill because their arms are too short.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I've got a lot of friends like that, to be fair. All right. If you hadn't have been a musician, what would you have been?
Chef.
Chef?
Yeah, I wanted to be a chef at one point. I used to watch all the cooking shows on Food Network and PBS. And I think food like music, it's for the soul.
That's fair. That's fair. And then the last question, one superpower that you wish you could have.
I used to teach these kids, and I'm going to steal from them. The superpower we decided was the best is thinking makes it so. If I could think and the thing I thought about could just exist from the thought, that'd be a cool power.
That's not bad at all. I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that. Cliff, thank you so much, mate. I appreciate the time, and I wish you the best for the future, mate.
Yes, anytime, Gary. Reach out anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you or someone you know has a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via our socials or visit www.crossingthepondpodcast.com to get in touch. Please be sure to subscribe, like, or leave a comment if you can. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Across Pond Podcasting.